Welcome to Above the Mark, where we take you from the soil to the office and everywhere in between.
We're your hosts, Jack and Troy, bringing you real conversations on farm leadership, rural life, and the big issues shaping modern agriculture.
Whether you're knee-deep in the field or just ag curious, there's something here for you.
So let's dig in and aim a little higher.
Welcome back to Above the Mark. I'm Troy, and
I'm Jack.
We're here for another episode. Today we're in September now. It seems like this kind of flew by. It's hard to believe we've been doing this for a couple months now. I would like to say that we're getting better at it, but I guess we'll leave that to the viewers to decide.
That's right. We're just winging it. We're just having fun.
And it has been fun. I think we're doing a good job in my eyes. I don't know if that's actually accurate, but September is Farm Safety Month, right? So we have a special guest on here today, Doug, and we'll have him introduce himself in a second. But today we're just going to be talking about some tips and tricks and some things that we've seen as far as farm safety and how important farm safety is.
Right. We're going into harvest.
We're going into harvest. And that's a time where guys are very sleepy and there's long hours and a lot of stress involved. Especially this year, I feel like, it's been kind of that season where there hasn't been a break. We kind of got going in the spring and guys have just gone and gone and gone. There's not been a window where they've been able to relax and go to the lake and do that.
Hopefully they got a couple of vacations. I mean, chilling by the beach.
I don't know that they'd ever admit it if they did,
Maybe that's true.
Yeah. But
that's my retirement plan.
Yeah.
Chilling on the beach.
Yeah. 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 We'll see. By the time I get to retire, I'll have to be probably 75, but it'll be okay. But we're going to talk about that because that's important. And as we have, it seems like every year we hear about some sort of accident, and anything we can do as a co-op to help prepare guys, even on our own team, right? I mean, we work a lot of hours in the fall. So without further ado, Doug, give us an introduction, a little backstory of who you are, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Doug Dewar, safety director here at Mercer Landmark. I've been here for about 9 years now. Married to my wife, Andrea, for 26 years. We have 2 kids. Twins, Curtis and Nora. Curtis is a junior at Bowling Green University, and Nora's also a junior, obviously, at University of Cincinnati.
Okay.
So we go to 75 and north or south.
Yep. So twins, that was like, that was one and done type thing.
Yep. We're fortunate. Way to go.
Yeah. Well, yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Gotta make life easy, right?
Yes.
I would assume the twins.
About easy.
I say twins, I can't imagine that. That would be, the early years are probably pretty challenging.
Yeah, I think so. But we really didn't have anything to compare it to because we
That's true.
2, and so.
Yeah.
So are they studying the same thing?
No, Curtis is business analytics and Nora's elementary education.
Okay. Kudos to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Exciting.
Yeah.
It goes fast.
Yes, it does.
Everybody keeps telling Ashley and I that, these are the years you're going to miss because we have a 5, 3, and 6-month-old.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to miss these years. But like last night when it takes us an hour and a half to get them to go to sleep and everybody's crying, I don't know that that's always true. But someday looking back, we'll miss it.
Yeah, you will.
All of my kids are grown, out of the house. They live all over. I can't say I miss those days, but you cherish the memories a lot more, right? You can look back and you can smile and you can laugh at when you were super stressed out when they were really little and, crying at bedtime. You can laugh at that now. In the moment you're not.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Remember more the good than the bad.
Yes.
We're taping our eyes open right now,
Yeah.
but we'll get there. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, all right, Doug. So you're a safety director, coordinator. Tell us why safety matters. I mean, for employees, for personally on the farm, why does it matter?
Yeah, I just think within this business, statistically, they say farming as an occupation is one of the most dangerous jobs out there. And I think it has a lot to do with all the different exposures, livestock, chemicals, being out in the elements all the time, outdoors, chemicals, just a wide range of things. Farmers, people that work for Mercer Landmark, I don't think they have 2 days that are the same. They go by, it's always something different, some other new challenge comes up. And I think they really just have to be on their toes a little bit more than some other jobs. And obviously important to family members as well, that people stay safe on a personal level, but on a business level, they also want to keep their livelihood going and keep the farm operation going as well.
And I mean, the world that we live in, right, in agriculture, it's not a 9 to 5 job.
Correct.
I mean, you get exhausted. I mean, you put in a lot of really long days, especially at harvest time.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's multiple, facets. When we talk about safety, we talk a lot about physical safety, making sure we don't do this or, step in front of this, or PTO safety, tractor safety. At the expo, we talked about mental health, and I think that's something that's becoming part of that too. That has been a challenge for guys to talk about, but it's a serious thing. I mean, we look at grain prices, we look at fertilizer prices, and just the size and scope of farms and how they're growing. There's a lot of things going on. And so, we were talking about before this, just long hours and lack of sleep. And that's something to think about too, right?
A lot of stress.
A lot of stress, right? Yeah.
Which is why those vacations make even more important, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to give yourself a break sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But in this industry, it's definitely challenging to go on those vacations. I mean, when it's your operation, you can go on vacation, but you don't always leave the farm at home. You can. So we need to encourage guys to take some time off and think about those things, and really just have a plan going into a fall, of how those safety protocols are going to be,
Definitely.
I guess looking at farm safety, is there any tips and tricks that you have going into the fall, things that guys can think about or maybe prepare their guys with, or, just have conversations about?
Yeah, to me, I think a lot of it kind of boils down to a lot of times we know the right way to do things and avoid risk, but we start thinking about time and the stress, and we got to get stuff done, and we only have so much time. I think it's easy to take those shortcuts and not resist that urge to take shortcuts and just I don't say just take the necessary time to do things the right way and look at the big picture. Okay, how much time am I saving doing it this way? According to risk, is it really worth it or not?
Yeah.
To me, that's a big thing. Kind of sums it up.
That extra 5 minutes to do it the right way. How much does that really save you in the long term, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And going into fall, probably the big thing is grain bin safety, right? Being around combines, that kind of thing.
Yep.
How important is grain bin safety? I mean,
grain bin safety is huge, and at Mercer Landmark, that's probably one of the more extensive topics we spend on training, or amount of time we spend on training. There's a lot of things that go into it. It's what we just call a life and limb safety topic, I guess. There's lockout, tag out involved, which we do that to make sure people don't get entangled in any equipment. We're not dumping grain into a bin or a silo that we have guys in working on. It's that reassurance, it's that peace of mind that none of that's going to happen if we do everything correctly. Atmospheric checks, good grain management. You typically don't have any problems, but there's always some kind of chance. So we train people on what those hazards are. We also train them on how to run the air monitors so they can recognize if there is a problem. We can get out of that space if we need to.
Yep.
A lot of things go into that.
And don't go in by yourself.
You can go in by yourself. It's just you got to have an attendant outside to keep an eye on the person.
Yep.
Yeah.
Make sure you have somebody watching.
Yeah.
Sounds like you need to redo your safety test on the grain bin there.
Yeah. We fill out a complete permit. It is a good idea to go in with somebody, but we fill out a complete permit that outlines all the steps that need to be taken. And then before we go into that grain bin, a location manager or supervisor will sign off on that before anybody goes in, just as a reassurance that everything's been completed, and it's a safe space to go into at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing we were just talking about this week, Nolan and I were talking about for next year for the Agro Expo was possibly getting out. They have some demonstrations that you can have people come to for getting people out of a grain bin if they get stuck in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they use that to train firefighters and other things like that. And I got to watch that demonstration recently, and it's interesting because your first instinct, if you get entrapped in grain, is to start trying to get yourself out and dig yourself out. And a lot of times that could be worse yet, to do that kind of stuff. So hopefully that's something we can maybe offer next year at the Agro Expo is an opportunity, guys, to learn about that. But yeah, having that, I'm only 30, so I've only been in the industry for 10 years. But I can think of 3 different instances that I know of farmers that I knew personally that had somebody in their operation that got entrapped in grain.
Yeah.
And a couple of them had to cut the side of the bin open to get them out type thing. So it can be a pretty scary situation,
Yeah.
and panic sets in, right? So I think step one in that is to stay calm and stick to protocol if you can. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we do hear about it every year. It seems like, whether it's locally or the Midwest or in the nation. It's funny you bring that up though too, because I got a call yesterday from a local fire department in Mercer County, and they want to come out to one of our facilities, and they're going to use a hopper wagon,
Okay.
but they want to train their fire department on getting people out of grain
Yep.
situations.
Yeah.
So we're definitely going to accommodate them and
That's great.
let them do that training on site.
Oh, that's great. So, going into harvest, we always have these really hot days, right? I mean, we get, the heat kicks up and we've got the humidity going on. So thinking about maybe just like being aware of the heat stress. What are some of the things that these guys can do?
Yeah, I think that is an important topic because it can get very serious, and that's one of those things that just kind of sneak up on people, and all of a sudden it's there, and it becomes a dangerous situation for them. Most importantly is to recognize the symptoms. There's heat exhaustion, heat stroke being the worst of the two. Recognizing those symptoms so you can kind of do something, take some action before it gets any worse. But stay hydrated, try to keep out of the sun as much as possible, whether that's blocking the sun through other means, light colored clothing, but then get just the symptoms and watching out for one another.
What are the biggest differences between heat stress and heat stroke?
Heat exhaustion is, again, that's the first stage you would reach, which that's more going to be like, I think you get, you might get a little dizzy, you might get weak, just don't feel well. You get to the heat stroke portion, and that's going to be your body will actually stop sweating.
Okay.
So that's a big sign, a big symptom, and at that point you need to get to a hospital. You need to call an ambulance. People can pass out, they can have seizures and heat stroke. So yeah, it gets pretty serious at that stage.
Yeah, it seems like another thing we hear a lot about in the fall is tractor accidents.
Yep.
Whether that's someone being ran over or just rollovers or whatever it is. Any guidance on that? I mean, as far as safety goes with that.
I think with tractors, if you got a long distance to go, I believe it's probably better to haul that equipment somewhere. But on the shorter distance, if you can be conscientious of the time of day you travel, dusk and dawn are probably the two worst times, I think. But if you have to, use lights, follow the rules, the regulations that they have in place for that, slow moving vehicle signs. And unfortunately, I think that's another one we hear about a little bit too much around here is, car tractor accidents.
Yep.
Out in the fields, the rollovers out in the fields, I think around here mostly involve a washout that maybe occurred that farmer didn't know about, slopes and fields, lagoons, those types of things.
Yeah, I have a statistic wrote down that 70% of all on-farm fatalities are caused by tractors. That was kind of alarming to me. I didn't realize that would be that high.
Yeah.
But I think that's another good shout out too, not just to the farmers, but to people driving on the roads to be conscious of that. We're coming into a time where we're in a neck of the woods where there's a lot of tractors on the road, and just be alert to the fact that they do have blind spots and they're trying their best. I don't think anybody's out there driving a tractor trying to be in the way,
Right.
trying to slow you down.
Yeah.
But remember that they have families at home that they're trying to get home to as well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just be patient, slow down, right? I mean, look before you pass them, look to see what's coming ahead at you. I mean, because like you said, they do have families to go home to as well.
Yeah. And with that, there's a lot of our growers are using semis now, but there are a fair amount of wagons still being pulled down the road. To me, those I see where people whiz around those faster than anything, so be cautious of those too. But yeah, semis, that's a lot of grain they're hauling.
Yeah, a lot of weight.
And there's a lot of steps guys need to take before they pull out of the field. Make sure everything's good on the trailer and lights are working and those kinds of things. It's an interesting time of year. Lack of sleep is probably, I think that's an important thing to talk about. Is it's okay to shut down a little early if we're feeling exhausted, and that way we're sharp the next day, right?
Yep, for sure, definitely.
Yeah. As far as I know in the fall time maybe chemicals aren't maybe the hugest thing that people are using, but that we do have a fair amount of, fall burn down that goes on. Any tips to that, just as far as PPO type stuff or just safety around chemicals that would be worth mentioning?
Yeah, I think probably the most important thing there is read the label, read the safety data sheet. There can be acute and chronic effects from being around some of these chemicals, some different exposures, where they do studies on them. There's different types of gloves that work better than others for different chemicals. Is it a respirator that's needed, safety glasses, goggles, that type of thing. I think one of the important things to point out about that as well is, and I think probably most people know what I'm talking about, is don't bring it home with you as well.
Yeah.
If you have clothes that's contaminated or your boots are contaminated, you come home and we bring up kids and family, your kids are going to want to run up and hug you. You can transfer chemicals that way through, contact, but then also you get it on the carpet and the floor, the stuff can hang around for a little bit. So I think people just need to be aware of that as well.
That's not something I would have thought about. I mean, you're out working all day long, you're ready to come home, you just come in the house, right? I mean, yeah, it's a good thing to point that out.
Yeah. I think that's important. But like I say, I don't know that a lot of people think about that. Yeah. Even just because you wash your hands, there's still stuff on your clothes.
Right.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I guess looking at, things that we do here at Mercer and I'm sure there's a lot of different examples that you have, but do you have any stories or examples that we can share to put it in a real life situation of, a time that protocols were followed, that we were happy that we did that because, maybe we saved a life or we were able to keep someone from getting injured?
Yeah, definitely. Talking about confined space earlier, we had we were cleaning out a silo of beans, and for some reason, I still don't know today, and I've asked a lot of people, there was an ammonia odor inside that silo, and the guys did a good job. It wasn't something they, were trained to do in that situation or what to do in that situation, and they stopped and they called for help, and we rented an ammonia meter the next day. We read the levels, and it was actually above the legal requirements of what you're allowed to be exposed to. So we're just happy that they stopped and they, just didn't have the get it done type attitude. Let's move forward with this. They stopped, took the necessary time to do what we needed to do, and then we cleared it out, and we avoided somebody being exposed to something they shouldn't be.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you pointed out, right, just get it done. I mean, that's a lot of our mentality. Yes. But taking that extra precaution, slowing down, bringing somebody else in to check things, I mean, that's a big deal right there.
Yep, exactly.
So.
Yep, they did a great job.
If you had, 4 or 5 call to actions, that you would give to farmers coming into fall, things, a checklist of sorts of things that, if nothing else, these are the 5 things that to look at going to the fall or talk to your team about, what would those be?
I would just say, what's the most critical areas of your operation? What do you feel like is most at risk? Confined space is definitely a big topic. The tractor stuff that we were talking about, PTO safety as well is another big one. Grain handling, the blockout, tagout, working on equipment. We also hear a lot about injuries where people get entangled in equipment, particularly, again, local to our area. So those are probably the big things I would focus on. There are a lot of resources out there as well that anybody has access to, and probably the 3 I would list is Ohio State University Extension is a big one. They have a lot of information there. Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation, OSHA.gov is another one. So within those 3 websites, there's regulations, there's sample policies, there's training videos, just about anything that you would need, to train your employees on.
Yeah, and I think we have some stuff on our website too that can help with some of the different things to think about.
Yeah, ours is linked to some of theirs.
Yep. So if you need anything, you go to mercerlandmark.com and find that stuff as well.
Farm safety.
Yep. So yeah, I think that's good to think about. You talked about PTOs. That is something serious. You look at combines, the amount of belts and chains and things that are on there, making sure that everything's shut down before you get out to look at something. Make sure there's, if there is someone in the combine running it, make sure that they know that you're going to look at it. Never sneak up on a piece of equipment. I do have one funny story I was thinking about this morning. My grandfather, who's passed away now, so I can throw him under the bus, I guess. My grandpa, he had a this is what not to do. Okay, so he had a stroke a long time ago. My mom was young, and there was a time that they were getting ready to go out and plow a field, and they were fueling up the tractor, and he had leaned up against the plow and was putting a chaw of red man in, as old farmers do sometimes. And my uncle had not noticed him being there, I think, or maybe he mentioned to him to get out of the way, and he wasn't paying attention, wasn't communicating well, and he took off with the plow, and his cane was hanging on the plow. So he grabbed a hold of the cane and drug him about a quarter mile because he wouldn't let go of his cane.
Oh my.
He got bruised up pretty bad from that, but if they would have just communicated a little bit better, probably could have avoided that.
Yeah.
I just think that's so funny that happened. It probably wasn't funny in the time,
I'm
but
sure it wasn't.
yeah. But seriously though, I've seen being on farms, there's a lot of shields and other stuff. I mean, when equipment comes from a factory, they are very good about putting shields on things, covering things up, having the warning stickers there. But I've seen a lot of equipment that guys have taken that off because it's easier to access, and then they just leave it off. PTOs, they got plenty of different sleeves and shields on them. There's a lot of people that take those off because it's easier to work with. I think we would probably highly recommend that we keep those on. They're there for a reason, right? And I think the most important thing that I tell my kids is just respect the equipment because it's capable of a lot of stuff. I mean, it can be pretty dangerous.
It's good advice.
And with that, with kids being around too,
Teach them the right way young, right?
yeah. I'd rather my kids be afraid of something than think that it can't hurt them because it really can, yeah, there's a lot of danger out there.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Talking about PTOs and guards and stuff like that. I've seen somebody misuse a guard before, and this goes back a long time to when I was younger. But Buddy and I were out at a local farm, and we were standing there. It was in the fall. He was blowing silage up into the silo. So the PTO was running, talking to him. He needed to get on the other side of the tractor and the wagon. And we're sitting there talking to him, and I'm watching this. I couldn't believe what I seen. He grabbed a hold of the guard that was over the shaft and just stepped over it. And I thought, man, this.
Wow.
Yeah, that's risky business.
Probably done it a lot of different times.
Yeah.
Just kind of sitting there thinking about that, watching them. Is it really worth the risk of saving that,
3
15
seconds?
seconds it takes you to walk around? But
Yeah.
so he was used to doing them.
Yeah. But it only takes one time to have a pretty catastrophic situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we kind of close up, I mean, one takeaway that if you could make sure everybody knew going into fall, you got one?
Yeah, I already mentioned it, and I just think it's probably the most important thing is resist that urge to take those shortcuts. I mean, we all really know what's the right way to do things, and what kind of risk you're putting at yourselves and putting yourselves in. I just I think that's the biggest part of it. And you get to that point where you got to make that decision. Maybe ask yourself, what would your family, your friends, your coworkers want you to do in those situations, and that's the real value of it.
Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
And
Thanks for having me.
it's important that we talk about this stuff, even though it's not always the most fun stuff for guys to talk about, probably, but it's important, and we want to continue to be able to work with our farmers for a long time, and we don't want anybody to get hurt. And we want our employees to be safe, and because if we're safe and we take the right protocols, we're going to be able to service them better, as well as we're going to be able to go home to our families. And I think that's ultimately the most important thing.
Yeah. Slow down. Take
yeah.
a deep breath. Think about it for a second so that you can do it all over again tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think that's important to mention too. We're here to help. So if there are situations where you're getting behind and you're tired and things are going on, reach out to your advisor, your grain, whoever it is, and we have stuff here and people in place to be able to help with those situations, and relieve you in whatever you need. So don't be afraid to reach out. Right?
Yeah, definitely. I'd be more than happy to help with anything if somebody's got questions, and whether it's regarding just what to do in a situation, but where they can buy certain PPE or different equipment.
Yep. Awesome.
Yeah.
For sure.
Fabulous.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for listening to another episode of Above the Mark, and we'll be back soon, I think. So,
I think so.
okay. Have a safe fall, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Above the Mark.
Be sure to follow us on Apple and Spotify along with YouTube, and we'll see you next time.